is this?
Grab your controller, dim the lights, and maybe keep a nightlight handy because we're diving into the top 50 best horror games on PS4 and PS5 by 2024. From spine-tingling jump scares to psychological mind-benders that'll make you question your reality, these games are packed with enough thrills and chills to keep you up at night and maybe even reconsider those midnight snack runs. We've scoured the darkest corners of the PlayStation universe to bring you the cream of the creepy crop. We're talking about games that'll have you sweating bullets, clutching your controller for dear life, and maybe even checking behind the sofa for good measure. And don't worry, we're not just covering the classics. You'll find some new terrors that have crept their way into our nightmares recently too. So buckle up, Horror Hound, and let's get into this countdown of the top 50 horror games on PS4 and PS5 is sure to deliver the ghoulish goods. Let's get our scare on. Resident Evil 4 Remake. Imagine being sent to a remote European village to save the president's daughter. Sounds like a vacation, right? Wrong. In Resident Evil 4 Remake, you play as Leon S. Kennedy, a man who must regret ever answering the phone. What starts as a simple rescue mission quickly spirals into a nightmare of mind-controlled villagers, monstrous creatures, and a cult that really needs better hobbies. You'll be slashing, shooting, and suplexing your way through hordes of enemies, all while solving puzzles that make you wonder if this village was designed by a particularly sadistic architect. The gameplay is pure adrenaline. Every encounter forces you to think on your feet, or lose them. Ammo is precious, so every shot counts, especially when you're staring down the business end of a chainsaw. The inventory management will have you doing mental gymnastics, trying to fit that one more herb into your attaché case. And let's not forget the merchant, because who doesn't love a creepy guy in a trench coat offering you weapons in the middle of nowhere?
Fight!
The Last of Us Part 2, Remastered. Welcome back to the world where fungus isn't just something you find on old bread, it's a global nightmare. In The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, you're not just playing a game, you're experiencing a gut-wrenching saga of survival, revenge, and the heavy toll of loss. Ellie, all grown up and fueled by a thirst for vengeance, takes center stage as you guide her through the remnants of a world that's far from forgiving. The plot is raw and emotional, with moments that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about right and wrong. The gameplay? Let's just say it's as intense as a late-night horror movie marathon, only you're the one in the driver's seat. You'll be sneaking around clickers who can hear a pin drop from a mile away, crafting makeshift weapons out of duct tape and despair, and engaging in some of the most brutal combat you've ever seen. And the story choices? They'll stick with you long after you've put down the controller. This isn't just a game, it's an experience that'll leave a mark.
Well, I gotta... Wait, that's a real shotgun?
Alan Wake 2, Night Springs. If you thought Alan Wake's first trip through the nightmare was a wild ride, buckle up for Alan Wake 2, Night Springs. This game is a descent into madness with a front row seat. Alan, our troubled writer, is back, and this time he's not just fighting the darkness, he's practically swimming in it. The plot is a mind-bending journey through a world where your worst fears take physical form, and reality is more twisted than a pretzel at a carnival. You'll be piecing together fragments of Alan's shattered mind, all while battling nightmarish creatures that seem ripped straight out of a horror anthology. Gameplay in Alan Wake 2 is all about surviving, and also about keeping your sanity intact. The flashlight is still your best weapon, but don't get too comfortable. It's a tool, not a safety net. You'll need to explore every shadowy nook and cranny, solve puzzles that make you feel like you're playing 4D chess, and of course, shoot your way out of the worst situations imaginable. Every decision you make feels like it could be your last, which is just the way Alan likes it, or at least the way his nightmares do.
Hope you know how to use that thing.
I've had some practice.
The Last of Us. Part 1. Let's rewind to where it all started. The Last of Us Part 1 Remastered is a love letter to fans of the original and a jaw-dropping introduction for newcomers. You're Joel, a man with nothing left to lose, and Ellie, a girl with everything still ahead of her, and together, you're navigating a world where the word fungus is synonymous with run for your life. The story is a beautifully tragic odyssey of survival and connection, wrapped up in one of the most compelling narratives in gaming history. Gameplay is where things get really interesting. You're scavenging for supplies, crafting weapons out of whatever's lying around, and sneaking past infected that could end your life in a heartbeat. The tension is palpable, with every encounter feeling like it could be your last. But it's not just about the action, it's about the moments in between, the quiet conversations, and the small human connections that remind you why you're fighting to survive in the first place. Dead Space. Next, we have the USG Ishimura, where your dreams of a routine mining mission will quickly turn into a nightmare in Dead Space. You're Isaac Clarke, an engineer who thought he was just fixing a ship, but instead, you're knee-deep in necromorphs, horrific reanimated corpses with a taste for human flesh. The plot is simple yet terrifying. Survive long enough to figure out what the hell happened on this ship, and maybe, just maybe, get out alive. But trust me, it's easier said than done when the dead won't stay dead, and the only way out is through. Gameplay in Dead Space is a masterclass in survival horror. You're not just fighting for your life, you're doing it with a plasma cutter, which means you're slicing off limbs instead of just going for headshots. The zero-gravity sections will have you floating through the void, hoping you don't run out of air, while the oppressive atmosphere will make you question every shadow and every noise. And just when you think you've seen it all, the game throws something even more horrifying your way. The inventory system is a nerve-wracking balancing act, forcing you to decide what's more important, ammo or health.
Choice here, bud.
Outlast. If you're into the whole running for your life thing, then Outlast is the game for you. Forget weapons. All you've got is a camcorder and nerves of steel, or maybe just nerves. You're Miles Upshur, a journalist with a knack for getting into the worst possible situations, and your latest scoop has you investigating Mount Massive Asylum. Spoiler alert, it's not the kind of place you'd want to stay overnight. The plot unfolds through terrifying encounters and found documents, revealing the twisted experiments that took place in this hellhole. Gameplay is all about survival, and by survival I mean running and hiding because there's no fighting back here. Your camcorder's night vision is your only tool for navigating the asylum's pitch-black hallways, but using it drains batteries faster than a kid with a new toy on Christmas morning. You'll be squeezing through tight spaces, ducking under beds, and praying that the thing chasing you doesn't find you. The tension is relentless, and the jump scares are designed to make sure your heart never gets a break.
Only your choice.
Until Dawn. Until Dawn is like your favorite slasher flick brought to life, except this time you're the one making the terrible decisions that get everyone killed. The plot follows a group of friends who thought spending the night in a remote mountain lodge was a great idea. Spoiler, it wasn't. As you switch between characters, you'll unravel the mysteries of what, or who, is stalking them. The story is dripping with horror cliches, but in the best possible way. The writing is sharp, the tension is thick, and the jump scares are plentiful. The gameplay is where Until Dawn thrives. Every choice you make matters, leading to different outcomes that can range from everyone's lives to, oops, everyone is dead. The game's butterfly effects system ensures that even the smallest decisions have massive repercussions. So whether you decide to take the shortcut or check out that creepy noise, it could mean the difference between life and death. Quick time events and exploration are key components, and the game does an excellent job of making you feel the weight of every choice. It's a thrilling ride where you'll be second-guessing yourself at every turn. The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners Tourist Edition. This game drops you into the middle of a zombie apocalypse in New Orleans, where the undead aren't the only thing you have to worry about. You play as a mysterious tourist, and your survival depends on scavenging supplies, making alliances, and, most importantly, not getting your face eaten off by the walkers. The plot is a grim tale of survival in a world where trust is a luxury, and every decision can lead to deadly consequences. The narrative branches out based on your choices, leading to multiple endings that keep you coming back for more. Gameplay is all about immersion. Whether you're bashing in a walker's skull with a makeshift weapon or sneaking through a horde unnoticed, the game makes you feel every moment. The combat is visceral and unforgiving. If you're not precise, you'll find yourself overwhelmed quickly. Crafting plays a huge role, as you'll need to make use of whatever scraps you can find to create weapons and gear. And when it comes to dealing with other survivors, diplomacy can sometimes be just as effective as a shotgun blast. Sometimes.
You stole my sister from me, rotten puppets!
Be careful, clever one.
Lies of P. What if Pinocchio wasn't just a wooden boy, but a full-blown sword-wielding badass? That's the premise of Lies of P, a dark, twisted take on the classic tale where you, as the titular puppet, navigate a nightmarish version of 19th century Europe. The plot is steeped in mystery, with every character you meet potentially hiding secrets, and not all of them have your best interests at heart. It's a story of lies, deception, and the quest for humanity, but with a lot more blood and swordplay than you remember from the fairy tale. The gameplay is where Lies of P really gets you hooked. The combat is challenging, with a focus on timing, strategy, and using your environment to your advantage. You'll need to master a variety of weapons and abilities, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, to take down the monstrous enemies that stand in your way. Exploration is key as you uncover the dark secrets of this twisted world, solving puzzles and making choices that will determine your fate. And just like Pinocchio's nose, every lie you tell has consequences, shaping the story and the world around you.
Who do you voodoo, bitch?
Dead Island 2. Sun, sand, and zombies? That's the vibe in Dead Island 2, where California's sunny shores are overrun with the undead, turning your beach vacation into a bloody fight for survival. The plot is as straightforward as it gets. Survive in an open world filled with hordes of zombies, each more grotesque than the last. But what Dead Island 2 lacks in narrative complexity, it more than makes up for in sheer chaotic fun. The game throws you into a vibrant, gore-soaked playground where the only rule is to stay alive, and maybe find a way off the island before you become zombie chow. The gameplay is all about creative carnage. You're not just surviving, you're doing it with style. The combat is brutal, with a focus on melee weapons that let you get up close and personal with your undead foes. You can craft weapons from whatever you find lying around, adding a DIY flair to the zombie slaying. Want to electrify your machete or turn a baseball bat into a flaming zombie smashing machine? Go right ahead. The open world design means there's always something to explore, whether it's a zombie-infested beach or an abandoned mansion. And don't forget the co-op mode, where you can team up with friends for even more zombie-slaying madness.
Creature feature, it's really happening and you're all in it.
This is gonna get a little messy.
The Quarry. This one is similar to 80s horror movies, complete with a group of teenagers, a creepy old camp, and a night full of terrible decisions. You play as 9 camp counselors who, after deciding to stay one more night at Hackett's Quarry, find themselves in a deadly game of survival. The plot unfolds like a classic slasher flick, with plenty of twists, turns, and gruesome deaths along the way. The story is driven by your choices, so whether these kids make it out alive or end up as horror movie cliches is entirely up to you. The gameplay in The Quarry is all about making those crucial decisions that could mean life or death for the characters. The game uses a branching narrative system, where every choice you make, no matter how small, can have a significant impact on the story. You'll be exploring the camp, solving puzzles, and participating in quick-time events that test your reflexes. But the real thrill comes from the conversations and choices that determine who lives and who dies. It's a game that rewards careful thinking, but also encourages you to embrace the chaos and see what happens when things go horribly wrong.
Member of society. Thank you for volunteering for the therapy.
The Outlast Trials. If you thought the original Outlast was terrifying, just wait until you step into the Outlast Trials. Set in the Cold War era, You're not just running for your life this time. You're trying to survive a twisted series of trials designed to break you both mentally and physically. The plot is a disturbing journey into the depths of human experimentation, where you and other test subjects must navigate a nightmarish facility filled with deranged enemies and horrifying traps. It's a psychological horror experience that will have you questioning your sanity at every turn. The gameplay in the Outlast Trials is a nerve-wracking mix of stealth, survival, and cooperative multiplayer. You can team up with other players to make it through the trials, but don't get too comfortable. Trust is a rare commodity, and sometimes the greatest danger comes from those you think are on your side. The game's focus on teamwork adds a new layer of tension, as you'll need to work together to solve puzzles, avoid detection, and survive the relentless onslaught of horrors. And if you're feeling particularly brave, you can try to go it alone, but don't say I didn't warn you.
Before the cycle breaks me.
Returnal. In Returnal, you're Celine, a space explorer stuck in a time loop on an alien planet that seems to have it out for you. Every time you die, you wake up right back where you started, with the world around you shifting and changing in ways that make survival a challenge. The plot is as mysterious as the planet itself, with Celine piecing together the fragments of her memories and the secrets of this hostile world. It's a mind-bending story that keeps you guessing until the very end, offering sci-fi and horror in a way that's both thrilling and unsettling. The gameplay is fast, furious, and unforgiving. Returnal is a roguelike, which means every death sends you back to the beginning with a new layout to navigate and new enemies to face. The combat is intense, with a mix of fast-paced shooting and frantic dodging as you take on waves of alien creatures that are as relentless as they are deadly. The game's procedural generation ensures that no two runs are the same, keeping you on your toes as you try to survive long enough to uncover the planet's secrets. It's a game that demands precision, quick reflexes, and a willingness to embrace failure as part of the journey.
Ethan Winters.
Mr. Winter. Ethan Winter.
Poor Ethan.
Ethan Winters. Welcome.
Resident Evil Village. In Resident Evil Village, you're Ethan Winters, a guy who just can't catch a break. After surviving the horrors of Resident Evil 7, Ethan is thrust into yet another nightmare, this time in a remote European village that makes Transylvania look like a tourist trap. The plot picks up right where the previous game left off, with Ethan searching for his kidnapped daughter and finding himself up against a whole new set of horrors, including werewolves, vampires, and a really tall lady with a penchant for blood. It's a wild ride that mixes gothic horror with the series' signature survival elements. The gameplay in Resident Evil Village is a mix of intense action, exploration, and puzzle solving. The game gives you a variety of weapons to choose from, but managing your resources is key. Ammo is limited, and the enemies are relentless. The village itself is a character in its own right, with each area offering its own unique challenges and horrors. From the labyrinthine castle to the creepy dollmaker's house, every location is dripping with atmosphere and danger. The game also features a crafting system, allowing you to create items on the fly to aid in your survival.
We're facing an enemy we know zero about, an enemy of unknown size from their home turf. Sucks to be us.
The Dark Pictures Anthology, House of Ashes. This game drops you deep into the horrors of ancient Samaria, where a group of soldiers and scientists uncover a buried temple that turns out to be a lot less Indiana Jones and a lot more nightmare fuel. The plot is steeped in myth and legend, mixing supernatural terror with real-world horror as the characters face off against ancient, monstrous beings that are far from human. It's a story of survival, fear, and the thin line between reality and myth, where every choice you make determines who lives and who dies. Gameplay gives us exploration, quick-time events, and decision-making that will have you questioning your every move. The game's branching narrative system means that every choice matters, from deciding whether to explore a dark corridor to choosing whether to save a fellow soldier or leave them to their fate. The tension is relentless, with the game constantly throwing new horrors your way as you try to uncover the truth behind the temple and escape with your life. And like the other games in the anthology, it's designed for replayability, with multiple endings and story paths to discover.
After that, it won't matter anymore.
Waiting behind me.
Change the past, Igor. See where it leads you.
Chernobylite. Chernobylite takes you into the heart of the Chernobyl exclusion zone, a place where the line between reality and nightmare blurs. You play as Igor, a a former scientist who returns to the zone to search for his missing fiancée, only to find that the radiation isn't the only thing to fear. The plot is a mix of survival horror and science fiction, with a heavy dose of psychological thriller thrown in. As you explore the zone, you'll uncover dark secrets, face off against supernatural threats, and struggle to maintain your grip on reality. You'll need to scavenge for resources, craft weapons and gear, and build up your base to survive the dangers of the zone. The game's non-linear narrative allows you to approach the story in different ways, with your choices affecting the outcome. Combat is intense and strategic, with a focus on stealth and planning rather than brute force. And with a dynamic weather system and day-night cycle, the zone is always changing, keeping you on your toes as you navigate its dangers. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. This entry takes the series back to its roots with a first-person perspective that makes the horror feel all too real. You play as Ethan Winters, a man searching for his missing wife in the backwoods of Louisiana. What he finds is the Baker family, a group of sadistic lunatics who've turned their home into a house of horrors. The plot is a terrifying descent into madness, with Ethan uncovering the dark secrets of the Bakers and the horrors they've unleashed. It's a return to the series' survival horror roots, with a focus on atmosphere, tension, and resource management. The gameplay is all about survival. You'll be scavenging for ammo, solving puzzles, and trying to stay one step ahead of the Bakers, who are more than happy to chop you into little pieces if they catch you. The first-person perspective adds a new level of immersion, making every encounter feel personal and terrifying. The game's atmosphere is thick with dread, with every creak of the floorboards and every distant scream reminding you that you're not alone. The combat is brutal and intense, with each shot counting as you face off against the twisted creatures that lurk in the shadows. Layers of Fear. Layers of Fear 2 is not just a horror game, it's a psychological trip down a rabbit hole of madness and artistry. You step into the shoes of an actor who's been invited to star in a mysterious film, but this isn't your usual Hollywood set. The plot is a deeply unsettling exploration of identity, creativity, and the blurred lines between reality and delusion. As you navigate the shifting corridors of an old ocean liner, you'll uncover the twisted narrative that your character is being dragged through, all while questioning what's real and what's part of the director's sinister vision. The gameplay in Layers of Fear 2 is more about atmosphere and narrative than combat. The game is a walking simulator at its core, but it uses this simplicity to focus on the psychological horror elements. You'll be exploring eerie environments that shift and change around you, solving puzzles that often feel more like tests of sanity than logic, and experiencing the story through surreal, often disturbing visions. The game constantly messes with your perceptions, using everything from subtle environmental changes to full-blown nightmare sequences to keep you on edge. Visage. If you're looking for a game that will genuinely mess with your head, Visage is it. Set in a seemingly normal suburban home, Visage takes you on a nightmarish journey through the darkest corners of the human psyche. You play as Dwayne, a man with a tragic past who's trapped in a house that's anything but ordinary. The plot is a slow-burn horror experience that delves into themes of loss, guilt, and the supernatural, all while keeping you on the edge of your seat with its oppressive atmosphere and unsettling imagery. The gameplay in Visage is all about exploration and psychological terror. The game doesn't hold your hand. You're left to figure out how to survive in a house that's constantly shifting and changing, with every shadow hiding a potential threat. There's no combat here. Instead, you'll be solving puzzles, uncovering the house's dark secrets, and trying to keep your sanity intact as the horrors mount. The game uses a sanity system similar to classics like Eternal Darkness, where witnessing disturbing events or staying in the dark for too long can lead to terrifying consequences. It's a game that's designed to get under your skin and stay there. Resident Evil 3. Resident Evil 3 throws you back into the chaos of Raccoon City, where you take control of Jill Valentine as she tries to escape the zombie-infested hellhole. But it's not just the undead you have to worry about. Nemesis, a relentless bioweapon with a grudge against STR's members, is on your tail, and he's not one to give up easily. The plot is a high-octane ride through the city's final days, offering survival horror with action-packed sequences that keep the adrenaline pumping. The gameplay in Resident Evil 3 is a mix of tense exploration, frantic combat, and heart-pounding chases. The game leans more towards action than its predecessor, Resident Evil 2, but it still retains the series' signature resource management and puzzle-solving elements. You'll be scavenging for ammo, crafting healing items, and solving puzzles to unlock new areas, all while trying to stay one step ahead of Nemesis. The combat is tight and satisfying, with a variety of weapons at your disposal, but ammo is scarce, so every shot counts. The game's pacing is relentless, with few moments of respite as you're constantly pushed forward by the ever-present threat of Nemesis. Amnesia The Bunker. This game takes the series' signature sweet mix of psychological horror and survival elements and drops you into one of the most claustrophobic settings imaginable, a World War I bunker. You play as a soldier with no memory of how you got there, but it doesn't take long to realize that something terrible has happened and that you're not alone. The plot is a descent into madness, as you uncover the horrors that lurk in the dark corners of the bunker and piece together the events that led to your situation. It's a slow-burn horror experience that's as much about atmosphere as it is about the scares. Gameplay in the bunker is all about exploration, resource management, and survival. The bunker is a maze of dark, narrow corridors filled with dangers, both seen and unseen. You'll need to scavenge for supplies, solve puzzles, and avoid the horrors that lurk in the shadows. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, and the sound design is key to the experience. Every creak, every distant noise, makes you question whether you're really alone. The game uses a sanity system similar to previous Amnesia titles, where staying in the dark too long or witnessing disturbing events can have dire consequences.
I already killed you once. This time, I'll do it right.
Dying Light 2. The sequel takes the zombie apocalypse and cranks it up to 11 with a sprawling open world, parkour mechanics, and a story where your choices truly matter. You play as Aiden Caldwell, a survivor with a mysterious past, who's searching for a cure in a city teetering on the brink of collapse. The plot is a web of alliances, betrayals, and moral dilemmas, where every decision you make can change the fate of the city and its inhabitants. It's a story that's as much about survival as it is about the human condition in a world gone mad. The gameplay in Dying Light 2 is all about fluid movement and visceral combat. The game's parkour system lets you navigate the city with ease, leaping from rooftops, scaling walls, and dodging the undead with style. The day-night cycle plays a crucial role, with the infected becoming more dangerous and numerous after dark, turning the city into a deadly playground where only the bravest, or the most foolish, dare to tread. Combat is brutal and satisfying, with a variety of weapons to choose from, each with its own unique feel and upgrade paths. The game also features a deep crafting system, allowing you to create everything from makeshift weapons to traps that can turn the tide in your favor.
What the hell are you, Neva?
The Medium. The Medium is a psychological horror game that takes you on a journey through two realities at once: the physical world and the spirit world. You play as Marianne, a medium who's drawn to an abandoned hotel that holds the key to unraveling the mysteries of her past. The plot is a dark and twisted tale of trauma, loss, and the lingering horrors of the past, with Marianne using her abilities to uncover the truth behind the hotel's haunted history. The game's narrative is deeply intertwined with its gameplay, creating an experience that's as thought-provoking as it is terrifying. Gameplay in the Medium is all about exploration and puzzle solving, with a unique twist. Marianne can exist in both the physical and spirit world simultaneously. This dual reality mechanic is at the heart of the game, allowing you to see and interact with both worlds at the same time. You'll be solving puzzles that require you to use your abilities to manipulate objects and navigate the environment, all while avoiding the terrifying entities that lurk in the shadows. The game doesn't rely on combat, but instead builds tension through its atmosphere, story, and the ever-present sense of dread that something is watching you.
Am I going insane?
Tormented Souls. Tormented Souls is similar to the classic survival horror games of the 90s, with its fixed camera angles, inventory management, and emphasis on exploration and puzzle solving. You play as Caroline Walker, who's investigating the disappearance of twin girls in a mysterious mansion-turned-hospital. The plot is a twisted tale of body horror, ancient rituals, and unspeakable experiments, all set within the confines of a building that seems to have a life and a mind of its own. It's a game that wears its influences on its sleeve, drawing inspiration from classics like Resident Evil and Silent Hill, while adding its own modern twists. The gameplay is a mix of exploration, puzzle solving, and combat. The game's fixed camera angles add to the sense of dread, as you're never quite sure what's waiting for you around the next corner. The puzzles are challenging and often require a good deal of backtracking, but they're well designed and satisfying to solve. Combat is tense and strategic, with limited ammo and health items forcing you to choose your battles carefully. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, and the sound design plays a crucial role in creating a sense of unease as you explore the mansion's dark corridors. Still Wakes the Deep. This one is an atmospheric horror game that plunges you into the cold, unforgiving depths of the North Sea. You play as a worker on an oil rig in the 1970s, and things go from bad to worse when a mysterious force begins to wreak havoc. The plot is a tense survival story where you must navigate the labyrinthine corridors of the rig, avoid deadly hazards, and uncover the truth behind the terrifying events that have befallen the crew. It's a gripping tale of isolation, fear, and the unknown, all set against the backdrop of one of the most hostile environments on Earth. The oil rig is a claustrophobic maze, and you'll need to use all your wits to navigate its treacherous passageways. The game is heavy on atmosphere, with a focus on building tension through environmental storytelling and sound design rather than relying on combat. You'll be solving puzzles, avoiding hazards, and trying to stay alive as the rig becomes increasingly unstable. The sense of isolation is palpable, and the constant threat of drowning or falling adds to the tension. It's a game that keeps you on edge from start to finish. Little Nightmares. Little Nightmares takes you on a journey through a dark, twisted world where childhood fears are brought to life in the most terrifying ways. You play as Six, a small girl in a yellow raincoat who must navigate the Maw, a grotesque and surreal underwater vessel inhabited by nightmarish creatures. The plot is a disturbing and silent tale of survival as Six tries to escape the Maw while uncovering its dark secrets. The game's atmosphere is heavy with dread, and every corner hides something more grotesque than the last. The gameplay is a mix of puzzle solving, stealth, and platforming. You're tiny in comparison to the monstrous inhabitants of the Maw, so direct confrontation is never an option. Instead, you'll need to outsmart and outmaneuver the enemies, using your environment to hide, distract, and escape. The puzzles are clever and often require a good deal of observation and timing to solve. The game's art style is both haunting and beautiful, with the grotesque world of the Maw rendered in stunning detail. The lack of dialogue adds to the sense of isolation, making every encounter feel even more unnerving.
Whatever happens,
you're not in control.
Observer. System Redux. This game plunges you into a dystopian future where technology and the human mind are disturbingly intertwined. You play as Daniel Lazarski, an elite neural detective known as an Observer, whose job is to hack into the minds of suspects and witnesses to gather evidence. The plot is a dark, cyberpunk tale that explores themes of identity, memory, and the nature of reality, all set within the decaying ruins of a once thriving city. It's a narrative-driven experience that delves deep into the human psyche, blurring the lines between what's real and what's imagined. As an observer, you can hack into the minds of others, experiencing their memories and fears firsthand. This mechanic allows the game to create surreal, often disturbing environments that challenge your perception and push the boundaries of reality. The game also features traditional detective work, with you scanning environments for clues and solving puzzles to piece together the story. The atmosphere is oppressive, with the game's cyberpunk aesthetic combining with horror elements to create a world that's both fascinating and terrifying. Bloodborne isn't just a game, it's a rite of passage for horror and action fans alike. Set in the cursed city of Yharnam, you play as a hunter on a quest to uncover the truth behind a mysterious plague that's turning the city's inhabitants into nightmarish beasts. The plot is a dark, gothic tale that's as much about discovery as it is about survival, with the game's lore-rich world revealing its secrets only to those who dare to delve deep. It's a game that challenges you to face your fears head-on, with every victory feeling hard-earned and every defeat a lesson in persistence. Gameplay in Bloodborne is fast, brutal, and unforgiving. The game's combat system is built around aggression and precision, with a focus on quick, relentless attacks and well-timed dodges. There's no room for hesitation here. Every encounter is a test of your reflexes and your nerve. The game's environments are intricately designed, with hidden paths, shortcuts, and secrets waiting to be discovered. Exploration is key, as you'll need to scour the city for resources, weapons, and items that can help you survive the horrors that lurk in the shadows. The game's enemies are relentless, with each one posing a unique challenge that will test your skills to the limit. Alien Isolation. Now this is the game that finally does justice to the iconic sci-fi horror franchise. You play as Amanda Ripley, daughter of Ellen Ripley, who's on a mission to uncover the truth behind her mother's disappearance. The plot is a slow-burn horror tale that perfectly captures the tension and atmosphere of the original 1979 film, with you navigating the desolate corridors of the Sevastopol space station, trying to stay one step ahead of a relentless xenomorph. The story is steeped in the lore of the Alien universe, with plenty of nods to the film that fans will appreciate. Gameplay in Alien Isolation is all about survival. The xenomorph is your primary antagonist, and it's a creature you can't kill, only avoid. The game uses advanced AI to make the xenomorph unpredictable, meaning no two encounters are ever the same. You'll need to use stealth, distraction, and careful planning to survive, all while managing limited resources and solving puzzles to progress. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, with every creak of the station and every hiss of steam potentially signaling the arrival of the xenomorph. It's a game that keeps you on edge from start to finish, with every encounter feeling like a life or death situation. The Binding of Isaac, Repentance. This game is the ultimate version of the indie roguelike that has captivated players for years. You play as Isaac, a young boy who escapes into a monster-filled basement after his mother hears the voice of God commanding her to sacrifice him. The plot is as dark as they come, filled with disturbing imagery and themes that explore religion, guilt, and childhood trauma. But while the story is heavy, the gameplay is anything but. It's a fast-paced, endlessly replayable dungeon crawler where every run is different from the last. Gameplay in Repentance is a chaotic mix of shooting, dodging, and collecting bizarre power-ups that can turn Isaac into everything from a flying demon to a crying baby with a laser beam for eyes. The game's roguelike structure means you'll be starting from scratch with every run, but with hundreds of items and combinations to discover, no two runs are ever the same. The game's difficulty is brutal, with unforgiving enemies and bosses that require quick reflexes and strategic thinking to defeat. But the more you play, the more you unlock, with new characters, items, and challenges that keep the game fresh and addictive.
This is where we planted the seed. The cancer that's eating Pathos too. It wasn't meant to be like this. No one told us this could happen.
Soma. Soma is a sci-fi horror game that explores the deepest questions of human existence. What does it mean to be alive? And what happens when our consciousness can exist beyond our physical bodies? You play as Simon Jarrett, who wakes up in an underwater research facility with no idea how he got there. The plot is a slow-burning mystery, unraveling through exploration, environmental storytelling, and interactions with the few remaining inhabitants of the facility. It's a story that delves into the concepts of identity, memory, and the nature of consciousness, all while delivering a chilling horror experience. Gameplay in Soma is focused on exploration and puzzle solving, with a strong emphasis on narrative. There's no combat in the traditional sense. Instead, you'll be avoiding and outsmarting the various terrifying creatures that inhabit the facility. The game's atmosphere is oppressive, with the dark, claustrophobic corridors of the underwater base creating a constant sense of dread. The puzzles are well designed, often requiring you to think outside the box to progress. But it's the story that truly sets Soma apart, with a narrative that's as thought-provoking as it is terrifying. Amnesia Collection. This one brings together the three terrifying titles that redefine the horror genre: Amnesia, The Dark Descent, Amnesia, Justine, and Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs. The collection offers a complete experience of psychological horror that takes you through dark, twisting stories where survival is less about fighting and more about keeping your sanity intact. The plots of these games are deeply unsettling, exploring themes of guilt, loss, and the unknown, all while plunging you into environments that feel as much alive as they are horrifying. Gameplay across the collection is focused on exploration, puzzle solving, and avoiding the things that go bump in the night. In The Dark Descent, you'll be navigating a crumbling castle where light is your only defense against the horrors that lurk in the dark. Justine offers a shorter, more intense experience where you must escape a dungeon filled with deadly traps and terrifying creatures, all while making moral decisions that affect the outcome. A Machine for Pigs takes a more narrative-driven approach, leading you through a nightmarish industrial complex filled with grotesque machinery and even more grotesque inhabitants. Madison. Madison is a psychological horror game that places you in the shoes of Luca, a young man who wakes up in a blood-soaked room with no memory of how he got there. The plot is a twisted tale of possession and family secrets, as Luca is haunted by the spirit of Madison, a woman with a dark past who forces him to complete a terrifying ritual. The game's narrative is deeply unsettling, exploring themes of guilt, fear, and the supernatural, all while keeping you on edge with its oppressive atmosphere and disturbing imagery. Gameplay is focused on exploration and puzzle solving, with a heavy emphasis on psychological horror. The game's environments are dark and claustrophobic, with every shadow potentially hiding something sinister. You'll need to use your wits to solve puzzles and navigate the twisted world of Madison, all while avoiding the terrifying entities that stalk you. The game's atmosphere is thick with dread, with the sound design playing a crucial role in creating a sense of unease as you explore the house and its surroundings. Madison doesn't rely on jump scares. Instead, it builds tension slowly, using its environment and story to keep you on edge. Dead by Daylight. This one is a horror playground where you can either be the hunter or the hunted. The game pits 4 survivors against 1 killer in a deadly game of cat and mouse, where the only goal is to survive, or to ensure that no one else does. The plot is simple but effective, with each match telling its own story of terror as the survivors try to escape the killer's clutches. The game features a wide variety of killers and survivors, each with their own unique abilities and perks, allowing for endless replayability. Gameplay in Dead by Daylight is all about tension and strategy. As a survivor, you'll need to work together with your team to repair generators that power the exit gates, all while avoiding the killer. Stealth, communication, and quick thinking are key to survival, as one wrong move can lead to a swift and brutal end. As the killer, your goal is to hunt down the survivors and prevent them from escaping by any means necessary. Each killer has their own unique abilities, from setting traps to teleporting across the map, allowing for a wide range of playstyles. The game's atmosphere is thick with dread, with every creak of the floorboards and every distant scream signaling that danger is near.
Whatever you're holding on to right there, that's your role.
The Kalisto Protocol. This one is a survival horror game that transports you to the distant moon of Kalisto, where a prison facility has become ground zero for a terrifying outbreak. You play as Jacob Lee, a prisoner who must fight to survive as the facility descends into chaos, with deadly creatures stalking the corridors and the very environment itself becoming a threat. The plot is a tense and atmospheric tale of survival, with Jacob uncovering the dark secrets behind the outbreak as he struggles to stay alive. It's a game that combines sci-fi and horror in a way that's both thrilling and terrifying. The game's combat system is brutal and visceral, with a focus on close-quarters combat that requires quick reflexes and strategic thinking. You'll need to scavenge for weapons and supplies, all while managing your limited resources and avoiding the deadly creatures that lurk in the shadows. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, with the facility's dark and claustrophobic corridors creating a constant sense of dread. The puzzles are well designed, often requiring you to think outside the box to progress, but it's the story that truly sets the Kalisto Protocol apart, with a narrative that's as thought-provoking as it is terrifying. Song of Horror. Song of Horror is a third-person survival horror game that pays homage to the classics of the genre while adding something of its own. You play as multiple characters, each with their own perspective on the unfolding mystery of an ancient, malevolent entity known as the Presence. The plot is a deeply unsettling tale of haunted houses, cursed objects, and the thin line between reality and nightmare. As you switch between characters, you'll piece together the story of the Presence and its connection to the disappearance of a famous writer. It's a game that combines traditional horror elements with a modern sensibility, creating an experience that's both nostalgic and fresh. Gameplay in Song of Horror is focused on exploration, puzzle solving, and avoiding the Presence, a malevolent force that hunts you throughout the game. The game's key feature is its permadeath mechanic. If a character dies, they're gone for good, and the story continues with another character. This adds a layer of tension to every encounter, as you'll need to carefully weigh your actions and decisions. The puzzles are well designed, often requiring you to explore every corner of the environment to find the clues and items you need to progress. The game's atmosphere is thick with dread, with the sound design playing a crucial role in creating a sense of unease as you explore the game's haunted locations. Phasmophobia. Phasmophobia is a co-op horror game that lets you and your friends live out your ghost hunting fantasies. If your fantasies involve being scared out of your wits, that is. You play as a team of paranormal investigators tasked with identifying and capturing evidence of the supernatural. The plot is minimal, but that's not the point. The real story unfolds through your interactions with the ghosts and the environments you explore. Each location is haunted by a different type of ghost, and it's your job to figure out what you're dealing with before it deals with you. It's a game that combines the thrill of ghost hunting with the terror of knowing that the ghost is hunting you right back. Phasmophobia is all about teamwork, strategy, and nerves of steel. You'll need to use a variety of ghost hunting tools, from EMF readers to spirit boxes, to gather evidence and identify the type of ghost haunting the location. But be careful. The more evidence you collect, the more active the ghost becomes, and it won't hesitate to turn the tables on you. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, with every creak of the floorboards and every distant whisper potentially signaling the ghost's presence. The game also features VR support, which cranks the fear factor up to 11, making every encounter feel all too real. Fear and Hunger. This game is a survival horror RPG that doesn't pull any punches when it comes to creating a dark, oppressive atmosphere. Set in a world where death is a constant companion, you play as one of 4 characters, each with their own backstory and motivations, who must navigate the cursed dungeons of fear and hunger. The plot is a grim tale of survival, where every decision you make can lead to life or death. It's a game that blends horror and RPG elements in a way that's both challenging and deeply unsettling. The game's combat system is unforgiving, with even the most basic encounters posing a significant threat. You'll need to carefully manage your health, sanity, and resources as you navigate the game's dungeons, which are filled with traps, monsters, and other dangers. The game's atmosphere is thick with dread, with the sound design playing a crucial role in creating a sense of unease as you explore the game's dark and twisted world. The game also features a permadeath mechanic, meaning that every decision you make carries significant weight, and one wrong move can end your journey for good. The Mortuary Assistant. The Mortuary Assistant takes you into one of the most unsettling jobs imaginable, preparing the dead for burial. You play as a mortuary assistant who discovers that something is very wrong with the bodies in the morgue. The plot is a chilling tale of demonic possession and supernatural horror, with the game taking place over the course of a single night as you work to uncover the truth behind the strange occurrences in the mortuary. It's a game that combines psychological horror with elements of the occult, creating an experience that's both terrifying and deeply immersive. Gameplay is focused on exploration and puzzle solving, with a heavy emphasis on atmosphere and tension. As you perform your duties in the mortuary, you'll need to keep an eye out for signs of demonic activity, using your knowledge of the occult to identify and banish the entities that are trying to take over the bodies in your care. The game's atmosphere is thick with dread, with the sound design playing a crucial role in creating a sense of unease as you explore the mortuary. The game doesn't rely on jump scares. Instead, it builds tension slowly, using its environment and story to keep you on edge. Made of Scare. Made of Scare is a first-person survival horror game set in a remote hotel with a dark and twisted history. You play as Thomas Evans, a musician who travels to Scare Hotel to rescue his lover Elizabeth from the clutches of her twisted family. The plot is inspired by Welsh folklore and is steeped in gothic horror, with the hotel's dark secrets slowly unraveling as you explore its eerie halls. It's a game that combines elements of folklore, ghost stories, and psychological horror to create an experience that's as chilling as it is compelling. The game's enemies are known as the Quiet Ones, blind but deadly creatures that hunt you by sound. You'll need to use your wits to navigate the hotel, avoiding the Quiet Ones by moving quietly and hiding when necessary. The game also features a unique mechanic in which you must hold your breath to avoid detection, adding a layer of tension to every encounter. The puzzles are well designed and often require you to explore the environment thoroughly to find the clues and items needed to progress. The game's atmosphere is thick with dread, with the sound design playing a crucial role in creating a sense of unease as you explore the hotel's dark corridors. Little Nightmares 2. Little Nightmares 2 is the sequel to the critically acclaimed Little Nightmares, and it's just as dark and disturbing as its predecessor. You play as Mono, a young boy trapped in a world that's twisted and grotesque, where every corner hides something more terrifying than the last. The plot is a nightmarish journey through a series of eerie, surreal environments, as Mono and Six, the protagonists from the first game, try to escape the horrors that pursue them. It's a story that's told with minimal dialogue, relying instead on its haunting visuals and atmosphere to convey the sense of dread and despair. Gameplay in Little Nightmares 2 is a cocktail of puzzle-solving, stealth, and platforming, with a heavy emphasis on atmosphere and tension. You're tiny in comparison to the monstrous inhabitants of this world, so direct confrontation is never an option. Instead, you'll need to outsmart and outmaneuver your enemies, using your environment to hide, distract, and escape. The puzzles are clever and often require a good deal of observation and timing to solve. The game's art style is both haunting and beautiful, with the grotesque world rendered in stunning detail. The lack of dialogue adds to the sense of isolation, making every encounter feel even more unnerving. Man of Medan. Man of Medan is the first installment in the Dark Pictures anthology, and it sets the stage for a series of standalone horror stories that are all about choices and consequences. You play as a group of friends who set out on a diving trip to explore a sunken World War II plane, only to end up stranded on a ghost ship in the middle of the South Pacific. The plot is a classic ghost story, filled with supernatural occurrences, terrifying hallucinations, and a sense of impending doom. The game's narrative is shaped by your decisions, with multiple endings depending on the choices you make throughout the game. The game's branching narrative system means that every choice matters, from deciding whether to explore a dark corridor to choosing whether to save a fellow character or leave them to their fate. The tension is relentless, with the game constantly throwing new horrors your way as you try to unravel the mystery of the ghost ship and survive the night. The game is designed for replayability, with multiple endings and story paths to discover, ensuring that no two playthroughs are exactly the same. Whether you're a fan of horror, ghost stories, or just love a good narrative-driven game, this is a game that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Call of Cthulhu. This one is a first-person horror game that plunges you into the world of H.P. Lovecraft, where madness and the unknown lurk around every corner. You play as Edward Pierce, a private investigator sent to the isolated Darkwater Island to investigate the mysterious death of the Hawkins family. The plot is a twisted tale of cosmic horror, where the lines between reality and nightmare blur as you uncover the island's dark secrets and come face to face with forces beyond human comprehension. It's a game that perfectly captures the essence of Lovecraft's work, with a narrative that delves into themes of madness, the occult, and the insignificance of humanity in the grand scheme of the cosmos. Gameplay in Call of Cthulhu is a mix of investigation, exploration, and psychological horror. As you explore Darkwater Island, you'll gather clues, interview witnesses, and piece together the events that led to the Hawkins family's demise. The game's skill system allows you to customize Pierce's abilities, from improving his investigation skills to enhancing his sanity, which plays a crucial role role in the game. As you delve deeper into the island's mysteries, Pierce's sanity will be tested, with disturbing visions and hallucinations that affect both the gameplay and the narrative. The game's atmosphere is thick with dread, with the sound design playing a crucial role in creating a sense of unease as you explore the island's eerie environments.
The only me is me. Are you sure the only you is you?
PT, Playable Teaser. PT is the now legendary playable teaser for a cancelled Silent Hills game, but what it offers in its short runtime is enough to solidify its place as one of the most terrifying horror experiences in gaming. You play as an unnamed protagonist who finds themselves trapped in a seemingly endless loop of a suburban hallway, with each loop revealing more about the horrifying events that transpired in the house. The plot is cryptic and disturbing, with fragments of a tragic story pieced together through environmental clues, radio broadcasts, and unsettling ghostly encounters. It's a masterclass in psychological horror, where the tension builds with every step you take down that narrow, suffocating hallway. Gameplay in PT is deceptively simple. Your only goal is to find a way out of the looping hallway, but as you do, the game's atmosphere becomes increasingly oppressive and terrifying. The puzzles are obscure, often requiring out-of-the-box thinking and a keen eye for detail to solve. The real terror comes from the game's use of sound and atmosphere, with every creak of the floorboards and every distant whisper sending chills down your spine. The ghostly figure of Lisa, who stalks you throughout the game, is a constant, terrifying presence that can strike at any moment, keeping you on edge and making every loop feel like a fight for survival.
The animatronic characters here do get a bit quirky at night, so just be aware, the characters do tend to wander a bit.
Five Nights at Freddy's, Help Wanted. Now this game brings the terror of the original games into the world of virtual reality, where you'll need nerves of steel to survive the night. You play as a security guard tasked with monitoring the creepy animatronics at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, but things quickly take a turn for the worse as the animatronics come to life and start hunting you down. The plot offers us supernatural horror and psychological tension, with the game's lore slowly unraveling through hidden tapes and secrets scattered throughout the game. It's a game that combines jump scares with a deeply unsettling atmosphere to create an experience that's as terrifying as it is addictive. Gameplay is a mix of classic FNAF gameplay and new VR-specific mechanics. You'll be monitoring security cameras, closing doors, and using limited power to keep the animatronics at bay, all while trying to survive until 6 a.m. The game also features a variety of mini-games, each with its own unique challenges and horrors to overcome. The VR mode adds a new layer of immersion, making every jump scare feel all too real as you physically interact with the environment. The game's atmosphere is thick with tension, with the sound design playing a crucial role in creating a sense of unease as you try to survive the night.
To make that pain go away.
Martha is Dead. This is a psychological horror game that blurs the line between reality and nightmare. Set in 1944 Italy, you play as Julia, the twin sister of Martha, who is found dead under mysterious circumstances. The plot is a harrowing exploration of grief, trauma, and the blurred lines between reality and nightmare. As you piece together the events leading up to Martha's death, you'll uncover dark family secrets and face disturbing truths that are as haunting as the game's eerie atmosphere. The game doesn't rely on cheap jump scares. Instead, it builds tension through its unsettling atmosphere and the disturbing imagery that lingers in your mind long after you've seen it. You'll be exploring the Italian countryside, interacting with objects that trigger memories and visions, and solving puzzles that bring you closer to the truth or deeper into madness. The game's slow burn approach to horror is what makes it so effective, as it creates a constant sense of unease that keeps you on edge. Blair Witch. Blair Witch takes the found footage horror of the iconic 1999 film and translates it into a first-person psychological horror game that's as unsettling as it is immersive. You play as Ellis, a former police officer who joins the search for a missing boy in the haunted Black Hills forest. The plot is a dark and twisted journey into the heart of the forest, where the line between reality and nightmare blurs, and the horrors of Ellis's past come back to haunt him. It's a game that captures the eerie atmosphere of the film while adding its own layers of psychological horror. The game's setting, the Black Hills Forest, is a maze of dark, winding paths that change and shift as you explore, creating a sense of disorientation and dread. You're accompanied by your loyal dog, Bullet, who helps you navigate the forest and find clues. But as the forest grows darker and the horrors within start to close in, you'll need to rely on your wits and your flashlight to survive. The game also features a unique mechanic that ties Ellis's mental state to the gameplay, with the forest becoming more hostile as his sanity frays. Blair Witch is a visual and auditory masterpiece. The game's environments are richly detailed, with the next-gen hardware enhancing the game's lighting and textures to create a truly immersive horror experience. Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. Hellblade is a game that blurs the line between horror, action, and psychological drama, taking you on a harrowing journey into the mind of Senua, a Celtic warrior tormented by grief and psychosis. The plot follows Senua as she ventures into the Norse underworld to rescue the soul of her dead lover, battling both physical enemies and the darkness within her mind. The narrative is deeply rooted in Norse mythology, but it's also a powerful exploration of mental illness, with the game drawing on extensive research to depict Senua's struggles with psychosis in a way that's both respectful and terrifying. Gameplay in Hellblade is a mix of combat, exploration, and puzzle solving, all framed within Senua's psychological journey. The combat is intense and visceral, with a focus on timing and precision as you face off against shadowy enemies that represent Senua's inner demons. The puzzles often involve navigating surreal, mind-bending environments that shift and change as Senua's mental state deteriorates. But it's the game's audio design that truly sets it apart, with binaural sound creating an immersive, often disorienting experience as you hear the voices in Senua's head, whispering doubts, fears, and sometimes helpful advice. And there you have it, Brave Souls. Our journey through the top 50 best horror games on PS4 and PS5 by 2024 has come to an end. If you've made it this far without hiding behind the sofa or tossing your controller in fright, consider yourself a true horror aficionado. From ghostly ghouls to mind-bending madness, these games have shown us that the PlayStation is the perfect platform for getting our scare on. Whether you're into jump scares that make you leap out of your seat or slow-burning horror that creeps under your skin, there's no shortage of terrifying tales to dive into. So, the next time you're craving a dose of adrenaline, you know exactly where to turn. Just remember to keep the lights on and maybe double-check those locks. After all, you never know what might be lurking in the shadows. Thanks for sticking with us through this terrifying tour of the best horror games PlayStation has to offer. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're always in the loop for more spine-tingling content. Until next time, stay spooky and keep gaming.